Good afternoon. It's NutBallCop again. This is going to be really quick because I've got some work to do. But I was reading when I woke up, had some nice coffee, and was going through the news and going through Substack, and I saw a couple of posts about fake 911 calls coming into Chicago PD, and initially what I thought it was a rumor that ICE agents were calling in the 911 calls, but then I saw Mike Nellis post like, "Hey, this is a thing," and I was like, "Okay, let me just jump online and verify it for myself." Yeah, no shit. I just put up on notes. The chief of police of Chicago Police Department is openly complaining about false 911 calls being called in by federal agents in Chicago. Okay. This is beyond the pale unprofessional. This is now because of idiots, vampire goombas like Stephen Miller, Nazi whores like Pam Bondi, criminal dipshits like Tom Holland are literally trying to start a cop-on-cop war. Okay, that's the intent of these 911 calls. Okay, now, in every state and territory, you're not allowed to misuse, abuse, war dial, or harass 911 centers. Okay. We take that very seriously. We've always taken that seriously. Go up and call our center in our county and threaten the dispatcher. Okay. We will wake up detectives in the middle of the night to hunt your ass down. You do not call up a dispatcher and threaten her or him. No way. Okay. That's not allowed. Now, making a false call to 911, obstructing 911, obstructing the duties of a 911 operator through harassment, war dialing, whatever, that's all a crime. It's a crime in every state. It's a crime in every territory. Okay. You are not allowed, even if you're a federal agent, you are not allowed to harass the 911 center. Okay. If you call up and you report a false felony in progress, okay, that act itself is also a felony. Let me tell you a little war story here. I'm working patrol wearing my blue uniform on a sunny day in California. And it's about it's a summer morning. I think it was late July. Really nice morning, just gorgeous. I mean, it was so warm overnight, a midnight shift. I'm wearing my short sleeve shirts. I'm not even wearing a car jacket. It's so nice. And been a slow night. It's been a happy night. I don't get like how some of these right wingers, especially cop right wingers, want a war on U.S. soil because they think it's going to solve all their problems. The best night I had working patrol is a night that gave me plenty of time to go get a big cup of coffee in the Wall Street Journal at 7-Eleven and actually sit down long enough to read the Wall Street Journal and drink my coffee. Okay. Having a shift where you end up with 16 reports in 10 hours, those are rough days. And besides, who likes all that crime and violence? Nobody. Okay. Peaceful nights are good nights. Okay. So this was a peaceful night. Not much going on. I think before that call, I hadn't got a radio call in 4 hours. Okay. That means I was walking every one of my business districts. I was checking doors. I think I was downtown beat that night, so I'm hitting the medical offices, make sure their doors are locked, make sure nobody broke in and stole pharmaceuticals, that sort of stuff. Stay active. There's no radio calls. You're still busy as hell, but it was a quiet night. That was going on. I'm not finding open doors. People aren't calling 911. I'm like, okay. So about 6:40, 6:45 in the morning, beep, beep, beep. I'm like, what the hell? It's been quiet. What the hell's going on? 459 in progress, burglary in progress, residential apartment. Boom, here's the address. Okay. Give me 2 cover cars. Let's set a perimeter. Let's take down a burglar. I know how to do this. This is why I wear a blue uniform. Okay. It's not to enforce culture like that recruiting poster for ICE. Come protect your culture. I don't even know what the fuck that means. Idiots. I stop bank robberies, burglars, domestic violence, arrest a bunch of DUIs so they don't kill people in crosswalks or T-bone a car, family van and kill all the kids in the car. Okay. I don't enforce morals or culture. That's not my job. Okay. Burglars, I do. So burglars, I'm rocking and rolling. So it's a silent run because it's a burglary. You don't show up, code 3, lights and sirens blazing so they know you're coming. So you sneak up there, and I get there, and it's quiet. I mean, it's quiet. I mean, cat walking by, and you can hear the cat. I mean, that quiet. And I'm like, man, there's a burglary going on here? Okay. Confirm the apartment number. Okay, I got it. Where's the RP, reporting party? They won't give their address. They're trying to stay anonymous. And like, okay, some people do that. I understand that. They don't like, being identified. They're a little scared of criminals or whatever. Men may be scared of the cops. I'll admit that too. We had an immigrant population from Nicaragua. They had reasons to be weary of cops because in Nicaragua, when you put your hands behind your head, that's when the Nicaraguan police come up and put 2 in the back of your head. They don't make arrests. They just shoot people in the streets in Nicaragua back in the 80s and 90s. It's always been a despot country the whole time I've looked at Nicaragua. So I'm getting there and I'm standing in the alley. I see the apartment door. I'm like, door's closed, screen door's locked. I go up the stairs real quiet. The screen door's open. Handle's locked. Door deadbolt. If you push on a deadbolt, you can tell quickly whether it's on or not. The bolt's on or not. And I'm like, it's a locked door. I know these styles of apartments in this town. There's no back door. There's only one way in, one way out. So I start having my cover units check the windows on the other side where I can't see. No, all the windows are closed, curtains are down, everything looks normal, right? And so I'm looking around, I'm going, there's got to be a neighbor within viewing point of what's going on. How else would they make the 911 call, right? So I'm like, dispatch, can you have the RP, the reporting party? Can they see us? And they immediately say something that makes me suspicious AF. He goes, yes, we can see you in the street. In the street? I'm standing in the alley. This is like a 500-meter alley off the residential street. I'm not on the street. I'm in the alley. The apartment is on the alley. It's not on the street. I'm going, okay, how many officers does she see in uniform? Oh, I see 2 of you. There's 3 of us standing in plain view. We're all looking at each other going, okay, something's wrong with this call. This isn't what is being reported. There's something up. Now, still being safe because it's still a burglary call. And if this guy comes bounding out of an apartment with a weapon, this could get fun. But things are quickly not adding up. And then I'm having dispatch. I'm telling, we need more information. Okay, we're not seeing any signs of burglary. This is completely quiet. We got no neighbors looking out their windows going, stay over there. That's where it is. Because our town, you get a lot of whispering when you're at a call. You get a lot of pointing, hey, it's over there. Okay. None of that is happening. I mean, it's dead quiet. The apartment's locked. No signs of anything going on. So we go round and round and round over the phone and over the radio with this reporting party. And nothing is adding up. So finally I go, we need the watch commander here. So the sergeant comes rolling up real fast. And he just walks up and he starts pounding on the door. Open up the door, police, open up the door. Boom, 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 boom. Takes us like 4 times pounding on the door. The guy whips open the door and he's wrapped in a towel. And of course, the way he aggressive, and he came out, what the fuck do you want? And then next thing you know, he's got a 9mm pointed at the center of his forehead. Because I'm like, no, what are you doing? We got a report of a burglary in progress here. And he just goes, oh, shit. I'm going, you obviously know who made that call. He goes, yeah, I do. I go, who else is in the apartment? And he goes, my friend. Your friend needs to come to the door. Well, she's not dressed. And then I start putting 2 to 2 together real quick. This guy's hanging out with another chick. Figured this out real quick. Here comes this just smoking blonde out of the bedroom wrapped in a sheet. Ma'am, are you okay? Is anything going on? No, we were just hanging out, Well, here having some morning sex. Good for them. And I'm like, okay, ID and indicia. Show me that you are you and you live here. He pulls out his electric bill from an envelope right on the dinner table and throws his driver's license out and goes, dude, I live here. I've been renting you. I have the manager's number. I go, oh, we'll be talking to him. Don't worry about that. And if you tell me one wrong thing, you're going to jail for false information. And he said, no. I can tell you who did this. Tell me. He goes, it's my ex-girlfriend. Your ex-girlfriend called in a felony burglary in progress. Why? Because we broke up, and then she noticed I was, dating the hottie blonde here. So the brunette ex-girlfriend is mad at new hottie blonde. That's how this phone call was made. I'm like, okay. I go, where's your ex-girlfriend? Oh, she lives in town. Okay, what does she do? Oh, she works. She's a singer down at the hotel. I go, really? Is she the in-house singer? She goes, yeah. She's with the band, the house band. And I know because I have friends who work, including an old CIA agent who works house security for one of the hotels. I know the house bands and some of the other people live at the hotel. They live and work at the hotels. So I'm like, okay, so she's the in-house band at that big hotel. She probably lives there in a room. Okay. Boom, light bulb goes off. You can't make a phone call out of a hotel without being tracked because all the hotels use PBX systems, phone branch exchanges. Okay. And there's a teletype little line printer back in the day, little dot matrix printer that every time someone made a call, that call got put out the name, the room number, and where the phone call went. Okay. All tracked through the PBX. So, okay, so I gather all the information. We clear the fake burglary scene. I drive straight to the hotel. Walk right up. I'm in uniform, so I say, hey, can I speak to the on-duty manager, please? And the woman goes, oh, is this an emergency? I go, no, it's not an emergency, but I do need his information from the manager. She goes, okay, just 1 second. I'll go get him. He's in his office. So the manager comes out, and I explained to him what happened. I said, we just got a false felony in progress, and I'm in fresh pursuit of the suspect. Okay, and that means something. That means I don't have to stop for a warrant if I'm in fresh pursuit. I go, I know a phone call was made from this address to 911 non-emergency number to this number. Do you have the ability to find that number in your PBX log sheet? And he goes, oh, it's printed out automatically. It's right here on the tele. So he goes to the line printer and goes zip, lays down the bar paper and goes, that's the non-emergency number you're looking for, right? And that's the room number. Okay, let's do this. Two of us go upstairs. We knock on the door, ask permission to enter the room because it's her domicile. You would need a search warrant if you want to go in there by force. But she said she gave us permission to enter the room. And so I just started talking to her. And I go, hey, so what are you doing this morning? Well, and I go, do you have a boyfriend so-and-so? Oh, yeah. I go, did you recently get into a spiff with him? She goes, no. There's no domestics or disturbances or anything like that. No. I go, ma'am, I'm going to ask you this straight out. Why did you call 911 this morning? You called the non-emergency number at this timestamp, okay? And you reported a burglary at this address, which is your ex-boyfriend's address. We've already established that. Well, no, sir, I would never do that because that's probably a crime. And I'm like, you're right, it is. So you didn't make that phone call? And she goes, no, I was asleep until you knocked on my door. And so the whole time I'm holding the printout in my hand behind my back. And then when she says, no, I've been sleeping and I didn't make the call and I just haven't been doing anything all morning and it wasn't me. And I just dropped the printout and I go, is this your room number? Yes. That's the number you dialed. That's the non-emergency number to County 911. What the hell are you doing? Her face just turns just ghostly white, not Irish white like me. And I know I'm pale. She turns ghostly white and then confesses to the whole thing. She was mad at him because she had saw him out with the blonde hottie the night before, so she was going to fuck with him. And I asked her, I said, do you realize how we respond to burglaries? I mean, your boyfriend opened the door, I stuffed a fucking handgun in his face. Okay? It's a burglary in progress, like you reported, idiot. And she was just like, yeah. So I wrote the whole thing up. She went to court. She was found guilty. Unfortunately, the judge threw out the felony. She reported a felony, so how it wasn't a felony, I don't know. But she got she had to write an apology letter to the chief of police. She had to do 200 hours of community service, and I think she got 15 days county, but it was all suspended as long as she wrote the letter. And she didn't have any criminal record whatsoever. She was just being dumb on overtime. But I didn't like the sentence the judge gave because any false call puts officers at risk. Okay, you told me this was a burglary in progress. Well, some burglaries are actually home invasion robberies, so I have to treat them, in a way that protects me as well as it protects the citizens. Okay. So anytime you start making false calls, you're seriously putting officers at risk. Okay. To have a federal agent make a false 911 call, your ass needs to be charged, indicted, arrested, prosecuted, and you need your federal badge taken away, and you need to be banned from law enforcement. All law enforcement, consulting, training, peace officer, agent duties, whatever. You need to be kicked out completely. You're like a bad doctor who takes out the wrong organ in surgery for the third time. It's not that we were going to slap you in the hand and suspend your medical license. We're throwing you out of the medical profession. That's what needs to happen with these ICE officers making false calls to Chicago PD. And this is something I was talking to my oldest son with a couple of days ago, maybe a week ago, is these Goombas, Pam Bondi, Nazi whore extraordinaire, Tom Holland, the bribery criminal, okay, Stephen Miller, the vampire Goomba, okay, they're going to ideologue the shit out of these agents until they do something stupid. Now it started. You're calling in fake calls, so an incident happens between somebody and CPD, Chicago PD. Then this Stephen Miller gets the point. Well, I told you there was all this crime and violence in Chicago. Why? Because you set up a police shooting? You call in some nasty 911 call in a panic, pretending there's some big incident going around. You get the cops all excited. They're driving code 3, adrenaline's going, and then something bad happens. If you called in a fake felony in progress and the cops hurt somebody, I see a legal path to a federal agent not only getting charged with making a fake 911 call, but also a charge of interfering police operations, interfering with 911 operations, and you are an accessory before the fact of whatever violence occurred at the call. So if the cops mistakenly smoke somebody because you tell them there's a mass shooter, at a church, and a mistake or an egregious fuck up happens, and they smoke somebody, I think legally the agent who made the fake call is on the hook. Accessory before the fact for a homicide. Okay. The absurdity of this nationalist regime is starting to play out in front of our own eyes. And it is the whole construct they're presenting is absurd. Okay. War is not law enforcement. Okay. Now, I don't like Mark Hertling, the retired lieutenant general. He was my old unit's commander, 7th Army, USER, European Command. I was West Germany back then. Now Germany and Belgium and all our allies, wherever we have people stationed. He's the commander of Europe in the 7th Army before he retired. And Lieutenant General Hertling said that on an interview, a great point. We do have, we do have military police, but they're a tiny, tiny fraction of the military. Okay. I think only 1% of the Army is military police. Okay. So that means 99% of the military, using the Army as a standard, is not trained on police operations. Okay. They're trained in blowing shit up and taking ground. That has nothing to do with law enforcement. Okay. If we trusted grunts to do law enforcement, there wouldn't be a military police regiment. There wouldn't be MPs, the military police, the line units that do all sorts of things, everything from physical security at ammo points and secure, like I did, the shipments out of Bremerhaven. That could be weapons, specials, whatever it's coming out of off the ships. Headquarters security, patrol on bases, that sort of thing. Even traffic enforcement, mounted patrols, whatever. So you got the MPs, then you have MPI, where I did that twice, 2 different stations. That's sort of like, follow-up detectives, Barney Miller. Okay, you're following all this stuff up that's sent up from patrol. And then you have CID. the Criminal Investigation Command, which I did 2 stints in 2 countries with working undercover. We're a completely different unit. Okay, we're more the CID in most of our special agents in charge are actual graduates of the FBI Academy and the Supervisory Academy. So we're a very FBI like unit that's inside the Army. Okay, MPI, CID, they're the only ones trained to do police operations. So what the fuck are you doing sending a Marine battalion into a city in America? A Marine battalion is not the tool for the job. That's absurd. Okay. The only time military should be called in is during an existential crisis, like what was it, Mumbai, when the terrorists hit the hotels and the office centers. They had to send in the Indian equivalents of the Green Berets to go take down the terrorists. Um, so an outlier like that, you send in the military, actual combat troops. Okay, Battle on Cafe in Paris, France. Okay, Commando de Francais and the paratroopers were sent into Paris. Absolutely appropriate. Okay, the Battle on Cafe was a military-style terrorist attack. Um, one of the greatest music venues on earth, too. Um, I just watched Genesis play live again a couple of weekends ago at the Battle on Cafe, I think from 1968. Awesome show. So, moving in the military, the Commando de Francais and the French paratroopers, absolutely appropriate in that case. Okay. I'll even say, like, using a Black Hawk helicopter, some cases that may be appropriate. It's not appropriate when you don't have, because I don't think they had search warrants, and that's my working theory right now for Chicago, the 7500 South Shore Boulevard mega raid, where they went into 100 apartments. I don't think they had search warrants. I don't think they had search warrants at all. I think they literally wrote their own warrants and said, hey, we're at war. So they repelled off Black Hawk helicopters onto the roof. Completely unnecessary, complete political theater, nationalist political theater, complete stupidity. But there are cases where we did use Blackhawks. We had a grow operation, a massive grow operation that was down in Big Sur, but it was on the federal property, a little bit inland. And there was no way to get into where they were growing with trucks. So we had to go to the airfield and say, hey, can we borrow a couple of Blackhawks for a couple of days? And we flew in there, rappelled in, cut down everything the general was pissed about, loaded it up into sling loads, brought it to the fire station on post, and we lit it all on fire. Okay. So I'm not saying that you can't use a Black Hawk. I mean, that'd be hypocritical. We use Black Hawks, but we used them once. Okay. That's because we couldn't drive to where we were going. Okay. And the orders from the base general was get that shit off my post. Yes, sir. We need help. And we need a few pilots, a couple of warrant officers will do nicely. But what this National Goomba Theater is horseshit. Okay. And if these guys are trying to cover their ass from a bad raid on South Shore in Chicago by dialing 911 and reporting bullshit in progress, this is a non-factual attempt by a regime to declare war on the streets of America. And that, frankly, is absolutely freaking insane. You're using the wrong tool for the wrong thing, and you're making up the problem out of whole cloth. I've said this before in videos. I've said this in essays. I've said this in notes. I'm going to repeat it. I actually pull the BJS and the UCR at FBI data, Bureau of Justice Statistics and Uniform Crime Reporting. BJS is a separate department. UCR is underneath the FBI. Okay. Actually looking at the data that's reported by police chiefs and sheriffs throughout the entire country, all states and territories, how much indication there is a massive, unforeseen, all-time high crime wave going on in America. By the data, there is zero evidence that is happening. Zero. Okay. Now, let me tell you a little bit about the nationalist roadshow of bullshit they're trying to pull. They're trying to convince you they can use the military to bring crime down to zero. The criminals will be too afraid to commit crime because they're all afraid of dear leader porn star Humper and their fucking Goombas. Okay, this is the same shit I objected to with the police tanks in the streets, including right here in my own city. I ran as a write-in candidate for mayor to try to stop that shit because all of a sudden, every call needed the tank. And I mean every call. They had not one, but two SWAT teams and a tank because, drum roll please, a young black man had a traffic warrant and a failure to appear. Ooh, you need a fucking tank for that? The fuck? I've arrested fucking armed robbers, rapists, and murderers on warrants alone at night. You need two SWAT teams and a tank? You fucking cowards. Is everybody a graduate of the Uvalde Police Academy now? What the fuck? Damn. So Chicago, do they have crime? Absolutely. Crime's a fact of life, people. And I keep asking this question. How you plan on stopping crazy with a police tank? Like at the academy when we were taking the murder investigation classes from one of the city lead detectives in our county, and he showed a murder scene photo of a victim who had caught the serving fork for the turkey on Thanksgiving right through the sternum into the heart, killed her, in 30 seconds. She bled out. And he goes, "Do you want to know? Do you want to know what the motivation was for this homicide?" The son, who had mental issues, thought the turkey was dry, so he picked up the serving fork and ran it through mom's chest. How does a police tank stop that? Hmm? Hmm? You got magical police tanks. You got little Harry Potter wands in the police tank. You go, "Oh, look, there's no crime. There's no crime here. There's no crime there. There's no crime." What the fuck? Who are you kidding? Okay. You want crime to go lower? Get people out of poverty. Get them better education. Get them better health care. Get the 5150s to a psychiatrist. Okay. Get the severe 5150s on regular therapy and medications as needed, paid for. Okay. That's how you end up with low crime. 3 lowest crime countries in the world: Japan, New Zealand, Denmark. They don't have the poverty rates we have. They don't have the healthcare problems we don't have, and we don't have the usury around education that we have. And you wonder why we have higher crime. Okay? The military has zero ability to manage crime. They have zero ability to take the crime down to zero. That's an impossibility. That's like trying to get to the singularity at the center of a black hole. You can't do it. Okay? It's an impossible state. Okay? Not possible. Instead of spending hundreds of millions of dollars on these fake invasions of each one of these cities, I'm going to repeat myself again, but I think it's worth repeating. You want good law enforcement? Retrain the officers this generation because they were trained wrong. Okay? You don't get outcomes unless you manage the outcome. Okay? Wishing for better outcomes in law enforcement and quote unquote defunding the police doesn't solve any fucking problems. None. Okay. Oh, and who's the kings of defunding the police now? Dear leader and his Goombas. Let's get rid of the FBI. Yeah, because interstate crime and bank robberies are cool. Idiots. Yeah. The far right has taken up the far left's mantra. I told you both fringes are fucking dangerous. They're both idiots. Instead of spending $200 million on fake military raids in Chicago and just harassing American citizens for no good goddamn reason. Okay. And by the way, if this shit of restraining minors comes true, I hope that ICE and the Border Patrol and anybody involved in that fucking war in the South Shore gets their asses sued off. And I hope each one of the officers who went after the miners and put zip ties on them, zip cuffs, I really, really, really hope you lose qualified immunity and you get your ass sued personally. Okay, because your conduct is absurd. According to DOJ regulations, you're not allowed to cuff or restrain someone younger than 15 years old. That's written in their policies. I looked it up. I saw a picture and I tried to verify it with ChatGPT and other sources yesterday, and I couldn't get a complete verification. But I'm seeing a 6 or 7-year-old with his hands behind its back, what looks to be like a cuffing procedure. If that's true, you fucking cowards, you fucking Goombas need to fuck off. You're not doing cop work. Okay? You're being the goddamn East German Stasi. Okay? One thing I'll never forget from my team chief. One of my team chiefs was one of the original tough boys. They were named after Colonel Tufts, Tufts, the first commander of CID in the Army, the Army's FBI, basically. So the original 13 agents called themselves Tough, Tough boys, tough boys. They're the ones that cleaned up the khaki mafia after Vietnam. Okay. Yes, there was a khaki mafia at the end of Vietnam and right after Vietnam. We're talking senior officers involved. We're talking about drugs, slavery, weapons, trafficking, you name it. Yes, there was a full-blown mafia running in a khaki uniform. That's what the original CID guys cleaned up. Okay. So I was working for one of the original tough boys, and he would always tell us before we started a big operation, he always told us, remember, we're not the gang members. Okay. We answer to people. Okay. He goes, first of all, you answer to me first and foremost. Yeah. And he was a senior chief 1 officer 3 and a special agent. Okay. He goes, first of all, you answer to me. Second of all, you're going to be answering to the SAC, the special agent in charge. And you do realize we have a base commander, right? We answer to him too. Major General. Okay. That's why we were so quick to go down to the other base, the satellite base, and clean up all those plants because the general was quite upset. Okay. We're not the gang members. Okay. What I'm seeing in these videos today is agents and cops acting like street thugs. Okay. And I told you this. The whole thing circling around Dear Leader is just a nationalist street gang. They are operating just like the crack gangs in the 80s and 90s. Okay. Including the loyalty tests. So I really hope Chicago impanels a grand jury and they start indicting people over these fake 911 calls. Okay. What Pam Bondi and Holland and Stephen Miller and these fucking assholes with badges pretending to be cops. Okay. What they're doing is trying to start a cop on cop war. Okay. Because really, the nationalist regime wants violence in the streets. They're begging somebody in Chicago or Portland or Boston to lift a finger against ICE. Okay. The guy in Texas, 2 places in Texas, they shot up a nice place. Oh, yeah. It was a shooting and we took care of them, Antifa terrorist. And there's no proof that the guy was a left winger. I looked. There's no evidence yet. It could be, but there's no evidence. And by the way, I keep going whenever every one of these incidents come up. I just go back to that table from the Cato Institute where they broke down who are the domestic terrorists. 63% of the time, that's only 2/3 at a time. 2 out of 3 times, it's a right winger. Okay, and that's if you don't include the Islamic attacks, which are also right wing. So if you take the Islamic attacks and you just go left wing, right wing, the left wing domestic terrorists account for like 7%. Okay, what is that? Like 1 out of 12, 1 out of 13? Okay, so when these things happen, I just have to look at the Cato data and I go, look, who could it be? Almost 80% of the time is an Islamic right winger or a American right winger. That's domestic terrorism for the last couple of decades. So I really hope they start convening grand juries. I hope they get indictments, because they're going to push this. Holland, Bondi, especially Miller. Miller's not all there. He is. You look at. I looked at his Twitter feed last night and had a conversation with Sal 9000 ChatGTP, and the sociopathy is present in his feed. It's an open view. Okay, this idiot is such an ideologue. He will stop at nothing. And some of the rubes they're hiring off the street and handing badges to, they're more than willing to follow Miller or Bondi or Holland. Okay, that's a problem. But now they're targeting local cops. And this is exactly what my son and I talked about a little while ago. Because they're going to start some shit. Because I was telling my son, if they go to LA and, the old Arabic saying, the friend of my friend, how's it go? The enemy of my enemy is my friend. Okay. What does ICE and Border Patrol and everybody else do in Los Angeles if the Crips and the Bloods suddenly decide that LAPD, the enemy of my enemy, is my friend? Because LAPD doesn't want the federales just roaming the street and grabbing people. They made that quite clear. An LAPD watch commander told an ICE supervisor to go fuck himself at a baseball stadium because they wanted to walk around the fucking grounds of the ballpark snatching people out of a game in LA. And the watch commander goes, "You're going to start a riot, so why don't you just fuck off? Okay? Get the fuck out of here." Okay? LAPD doesn't want them there. Chicago PD doesn't want them there. Okay? So what is ICE going to do when all of a sudden elements you thought would never band up together, but now you're attacking them in their own backyard? What the fuck is ICE going to do when the Crips and the Bloods decide that LAPD and they are all on the same side? How does ICE plan on winning that? Good luck. Hey, we lost Iraq. We lost Afghanistan. We lost Syria. We lost Djibouti. The French lost Mali and Congo. We lost in Somalia. We got our ever-loving asses kicked sideways in Somalia. But now the federal government thinks they can go to Los Angeles or Chicago or Boston or Portland and just take over the city, and they're going to win this glorious military victory, which they couldn't achieve over 20 years overseas. Get the fuck out of here. And I've been saying this for a long time. The U.S. government could not invade and hold Camden, New Jersey. Never fucking mind Los Angeles, California. Oh, and notice they're not doing this in Topeka, Kansas. They're not doing this in Dallas. They're not doing this in Jacksonville, Florida. Okay. They're not doing it where they have allied state governors and they completely control the popular vote in the last couple of elections, where they're going after majoritively, and I'll tell you about the one exception, which you probably didn't hear about because they're not covering it. The majority of where the federal attacks are against local control, and that's an essay. Please go look at my essays. I wrote a whole thing, how Trumpianism is going to eliminate local control, which was a mantra of Republicans since fucking Reagan. Okay? If you really want the federal government running your city, that's where we're headed. Okay? Dallas should be asking the same question as Boston right now, unless everybody in Dallas is a fucking moron. Okay? The one exception to the blue state, red state thing, Tucson, Arizona. You didn't see probably the gigantic protest in Tucson, no less, against the federal government and the federal agents. Okay? And it got pretty violent. Pepper balls were fired, fences were hurled at the agents, rocks were hurled at the agents. Hey man, I combed cable TV news. Not one video I could find. If you can find it, put in the link here. Okay? So this is political theater. It's not law enforcement. In their political theater, they're now committing open crimes and unconstitutional acts. It is a crime to call in a fake call to 911. Okay. I've seen people charge. Unfortunately, a lot of these people are, 5149 and a half, real close to 5150. They'll call 911 21 times in a shift. Okay, you got to stop calling 911. We actually go to their house and tell them, I know you got issues, dude, but you need to stop calling 911. If you got a problem, you tell it to me right now and I'll take care of it for you. But you need to stop calling dispatcher and yelling at them, because if you do it again, we're going to refer you to the district attorney for a warrant, and you're going to end up going to jail for harassing a 911 operator. Okay? But what ICE is doing, it tells me who they're hiring. It really does. It tells me the fucking idiots they're hiring. I was real fortunate. When I was in CID, I worked with a bunch of elite people, not just from our agency and CID, but all the three-letter agencies in the government. Name somebody, I'd probably work with them. Okay? I never ran into bullshit like this. I never had to listen to an illegal order. Okay? Nothing even close. And in my teams, like when I was on the undercover teams, everybody on the team had a say. We addressed everybody by first names, no matter what your rank was. I was just a buck sergeant, and then I called my team chief, by his first name. Even some of the senior agents at the main office, I called them by their first name, as long as the colonel wasn't around. Okay, always addressed the colonel by "Good morning, Lieutenant Colonel." She was a great officer, but yeah, she wasn't one of the one of the team members. She was still our supervisor. And our supervisor in CID ended up marrying my team chief in our DEA task force. That's a whole nother story. Father Bob. Yeah, he was a Padre in the 82nd Airborne, retired and became a DEA agent, and he ended up being our task force commander. So lucky I never had to go through this. And if I would have watched back in the day someone calling in a false 911 call to another police department, I'm going straight to the fucking lieutenant over that shit. Okay? It's some things you just don't do. Some things are just beyond the fucking pale, So these Goombas, you got to identify them, you got to charge them, indict them, whatever you got to do in Illinois. Okay? But this needs to be taken as a serious crime and as a serious misconduct. Okay? And hopefully this will quickly grab the attention of the judges, who are already getting really frustrated with this regime. Okay? One footnote in a case I read last week basically said that Carrie Lake, the dipshit Nazi from Arizona who lost the governor's race and has been threatening everybody in the country since, she's now an advisor for Trump. Of course she is. Of course she is. Dumb Nazi? Of course she's an advisor. The judge wrote that Carrie Lake, and I'm paraphrasing, was basically too stupid to understand the Administrative Procedure Act. This is why she can't follow a single thing in court. She's literally too dumb. Okay. A judge on Sunday night, last night, 10 o'clock at night, called a damn federal hearing at 10 o'clock at night. The judges are getting a little upset. Okay. He called a hearing at 10 p.m. over the deployment of the National Guard. And you know what the filing said from the Department of Justice? Trump's regime's Bondi, whatever the fuck her name is. It said, shit happened in June and our balls still ache from June, so we need a military invasion. And the judge was like, what in the hell are you talking about? Again, paraphrasing, but the judge is like incredulous. He's like, I'm serious. The Attorney General of the state of Oregon is here. The governor has submitted a testimony. Do. Everybody keeps saying, everybody keeps saying the same thing. There is no emergency in Portland. Something happened that you want to complain about and blow completely out of proportion, just as an empty excuse to send the military into Portland. It's bullshit. I watched a live video, had it up here when I was working on one of the aquariums. It was a live video outside the ICE building in Portland. Oh my God, were they chanting in a drum circle and that made you, feel bad while you stood there in your battle jammies with an automatic carbine? You felt so bad about the drum circle, you need military backup? Again, does every cop this generation go through the Uvalde fucking police academy? What the fuck? There's a fucking drum circle and a guy yelling at you through a bullhorn. That's not a military emergency. Give me a fucking break. Okay? But if you don't know who the East German Stasi were, especially if you don't know who Colonel Wolfgang Schmidt was, the chief of the Stasi, back in my day in West Germany, do some reading. At least go to Wikipedia or some shit like that. Do some reading. Read a Reddit thread, something. Okay? Because the verticalization of law enforcement that the regime is trying under dear leader Bondi, Miller, Holland is exactly the framework the Stasi used. Up to and including the Stasi in the 1980s, the secret police of East Germany seized and ran the East German chip industry. Very poorly, by the way. But what has dear leader done? With Uncle Bernie's blessing, the communist seizure of Intel, AMD, and NVIDIA. Yeah. There's a blueprint for what this nationalist regime is doing, and it's actually a communist blueprint. Literally from behind the Iron Curtain. And I will remind everybody, these feet saw East Germany. I walked on communist soil. I went into East Berlin. I saw it with my own two fucking eyes. My feet walked that soil. So don't tell me that communism is your fucking answer, because you don't know what the fuck you're talking about. My wife's family was stuck behind the goddamn wall. Okay? Now nationalist, Jew-hating nationalist, Nazis, people who walk around, Charles Kirk and all his little Goomba, little proud babies. Oh, I'm a Christian and I'm a nationalist. Then you're a Christian nationalist. And that means a nationalist socialist. The shortened form is Nazi. So you were all Nazis for the last 10 years. Then this year you decide that, hey, going full ass East German commie is the way to go, including secret police landing in your cities. Secret police seizing property and seizing businesses for state control. Show trials, show charges. That Comey indictment, show charges. It's going to be a show trial. There's no substance to it whatsoever. And I don't even like Comey. It's like the complaint about Hillary Clinton, Hillbot, and Comet Pizza. There's no basement at Comet Pizza, and I really don't think Hillary's a fucking child molester. Okay? Her husband's a goddamn degenerate. Okay? But I don't think it falls on her. Okay? Same thing. There's no evidence. You're making this shit up. Fuck off. Okay? Now you're making up fake crimes and calling them into Chicago PD. You need to indict and arrest these people and fully prosecute these people. No plea bargains. Full on state charges. If you don't, there will be a violent incident involving the local police and a citizen, or the local police and federal agents, and that's the match to the gasoline. Okay. Another thing I suggest you read about matches and gasoline. Read about Slobodan Milosevic and the Yugoslavian War. A lot of people say Trump is Hitler. I don't think that's a good parallel. Trump is most like Slobodan Milosevic, a white Serbian nationalist who recruited street gangs and white power militias, Caucasian militias, to basically commit war crimes against his first perceived enemies and then his real wartime enemies. The Yugoslavian War was a total shit show. It being a multi-way war, civilians were slaughtered every direction. Terrible. Solved nothing, created a lot of poverty, created a lot of destruction, solved absolutely nothing. And if Bondi and Miller and Holland get their way, the Yugoslavian War can happen here. America's not immune. This whole thing is, oh, this will never happen here. Bullshit. That's utopian thinking, and all utopias are false. Okay? Pay attention to what they want. They're looking for violence. They're looking for an excuse. They're looking for a cause to fit their narrative. And they'll do anything to construct it, including calling in fake crimes in progress. Okay? I know we've had a lot of problems with police this generation. I keep yelling at Uvalde. That makes me so mad. So does the school in Florida where they hid in the stairwells. You damn cowards. But trust me when you say, go back and read my essays where I wrote 4-part long essays telling you what was wrong with law enforcement today. But in the end, we still need good law enforcement because the only replacement for good law enforcement is a military invasion. That's what history tells us. Okay. Now, the nationalist regime is throwing out law enforcement and now actively trying to replace it with militarized or actual military operations. Okay. This is not good for anybody. So even if you've had a problem with your local police, I would start contacting your local police chief or sheriff and saying, you know what? I've had my problem, but we need you. We need good local law enforcement. Okay. The example I used in one of my essays is, this is a real case of mine. What do you do when there's a 50-year-old girl found dead along the river, on the riverbank? You're going to call the Murder She Wrote book club and they're going to pull paper on the murder? They're going to do the crime scene? Come on. Come on. Okay. We've got to reinvest in local police, get the fucking ICE idiots out of there. And we need to retrain and get the local police to do the job we need them to do. Without the bullshit, without the fucking drug war, okay? Without the fucking police tanks, unless it's a unforeseen emergency, okay? We all need to work. Like, I haven't called our local police in shit 12 years. I don't trust a single one of those fuckers. Okay, they ran around here after they got their police tank telling us they're going to run the Social Security and Medicare recipients out of town. Well, I'm a data engineer. I have a census key, so I went up into the API and the Census Bureau. Who do they mean by Social Security and medical recipients? They meant poor minorities, according to the data. Okay, that's when I was like, fuck you. It's actually a Geneva Conventions violation to use military force against a civilian populace. Okay, so we have two choices now. We can ignore the federales and they're going to create an incident that's going to fuck up everything. Or we can start encouraging the local police to fix their broken asses and get in the game. Okay, because our only other replacement is idiots like Tom Holland and his Goomba nationalist troops. And I think social media is onto something. Some of the shirts I'm seeing underneath the bulletproof vest really indicate to me you've got some white gang members who have been suddenly given a badge. The telltale garb of white nationalists is showing up in some of those videos. So make your choice, America. I know it's a lot of work. There's problems, a lot of things to fix, but we have to make a choice now. Either we reinvest, retrain, and re-enable local law enforcement, or who's next? Because if you think, excuse me, if you think they're going to stop at Boston or Chicago, LA or Portland, wrong. Do you think they're going to stop at brown immigrants or black people living in an apartment building in Chicago? Wrong. The last rise of the Klan was exactly 100 years ago. Okay. They came up to the Midwest and they decided to march on Notre Dame because one of the groups of people they hated, the Irish. So they wanted to put a big demonstration on to show they were superior to the Irish. Well, the Irish found out they were coming. They all hid in the alleys with bricks and boards and bats and whatever. Klan came to town, they drug him into the alleys, and they kicked the living shit out of him. The Klan has never been back to Notre Dame. Okay? I know the Klan hates me, and I hate them right back. If you think the Klan doesn't hate you, and you're not in the Klan, you're just a fucking idiot. Okay? So wake up to where this is going. Okay? Until next time, think about it.